Coming up on today's show, we're going to check out some sleepers for Andrew Berry and the Browns since they don't have a first-round pick. But really quickly, we are trying to get to 34,000 subscribers before the NFL draft gets underway, and we are just over 50 subs away. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. Let's talk draft sleepers on the channel today because the Browns, they should be pretty good at identifying sleepers in the NFL draft given the fact that they haven't had a first-round pick since Greg Newsome in 2021, and this will mark 3 straight drafts without a first-rounder. So this has become the norm for Andrew Berry and the Browns, and I want to help him out by identifying 5 players I think are worthy of a peek for the NFL draft. Now, let's first remind everyone about the picks that Browns have in the upcoming draft. They've got a 2nd, a 3rd, no 4th-round pick, a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns try and take that 7th rounder. They tend not to pick in the round 7 and maybe use that to bundle and move up in the draft, but we'll see if anyone wants to pick 243. Now, I do want to remind you guys about some recent round 3 through 5, we'll call it, sleepers. That just goes to show that you can find really good players even if they are not a 1st or 2nd round pick. Last year's rookie defensive line sack leader, Kobe Turner, Puka Nacua for the Rams. I mean, that's a franchise that has not had a first-round pick since Jared Goff, believe it or not. So they've gotten very used to it. I'll include Martin Emerson as a sleeper. Tariq Woolen, Deron Bland, Justin Matabuke, Jonathan Grenard, Alex Highsmith, Gabe Davis, L'Jarius Sneed just got $19 million a season. He was a 4th-round pick. So you can find quality players in the later stages of the draft or the middle portion of it, most likely. But you got to do some digging. So let's help the Browns dig. Let's get our shovels out. And let's start with a linebacker because you know that I've been talking all about them. We're going to go with Michael Barrett out of Michigan. And in fact, we can bundle Michael Barrett with another linebacker as well, Trevin Wallace out of Kentucky. So let's put these 2 players together and talk about them because the Browns, in my eyes, need help at linebacker. But if they don't get the guy they want in round 2 or round 3, maybe they push it off a little bit to round 5 or so. And that's where Barrett or Wallace could be available. Now, some background on Michael Barrett. 5'11", 233 pounds. I'm not a big believer in a player can have their name just crossed off a list because of a height or weight. But when you play linebacker, being on the bigger side is going to help take down tight ends and running backs and not let offensive tackles just push you around. But he's an extremely well-rounded athlete. He can really help in special teams, and I think that's an important area of the game that sometimes we overlook when it comes to the draft. But if you're picking guys in round 3, you're looking for players that can compete and can contribute on special teams because there's likely not going to be a whole lot of snaps for them on the defensive side. So Barrett could definitely step in and be a contributor on that side of the football. As for Wallace, a little bit bigger than Barrett. He's 6'1", 244 pounds. Now the thing with Wallace is he doesn't have that horse trait I love to reference, right? He doesn't have that incredible athletic trait that stands out. And that's why he's not a round 1 through 3 type of player most likely. But he's a proven run stopper, and I think he can hold his own, and he's got a good shot of finding a role in the NFL. Now, it's no secret on this channel that I've been pounding the table for the Browns to go get a linebacker in this upcoming draft. I don't have a ton of confidence in Devin Bush. They haven't drafted a linebacker since they got JOK and Tony Fields nearly 4 years ago. It's just time to reset a little bit at that position, go young, and try and bring someone in that can push Devin Bush for that starting job. So what draft sleeper will you write on? As we deviate just for a quick moment here, everyone's got their one claim to fame. I knew that guy was going to be awesome. No one listened to me. Who is that player for you? Let me know in the comment section. Proudly state the draft sleeper you correctly nailed. Moving on here, we're going to talk about a running back next. It is the Louisville running back, Isaac Guerendo. So we've actually talked about him before on the channel, But if you missed our draft sleepers video from like 2 months ago, I want to re-hit it quickly because I still think Guerendo is in play for the Browns. He's 6 foot, 221 pounds. So average size for a running back, a little bit more on the meatier side, if you will. Now, he was at Wisconsin for 4 seasons, never really broke out there. He was behind, I think, Jonathan Taylor to start his career, then Allen most recently. So ultimately, he decides to transfer to Louisville, and he plays 1 season. So pro for him and con at the same time is he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear. He doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires, right? And teams are going to value that because the way the NFL position works in the NFL is they want to run you into the ground. But if you come into the pros with a pretty clean bill of health and you don't have a sore knee after the first season because of the back-to-back 200 carry seasons you had at college, well, Guerendo is going to have a little bit more spring in his step as a result. Now, he's a big play home run machine. He's got incredible top speed. He averaged 6.1 yards a carry last year, 11 touchdowns. He just has a knack for finding himself in the middle of a big play. Now, the con is we only saw 132 carries of it. So is that going to translate to the NFL? Is that a big enough sample size for you to believe that he can continue playing at that type of level or even like 90% of it? Or was he a bit of a one-hit wonder that played against some soft ACC defenses? And if he played another season in college football, we may realize that. The Browns running back room should definitely see an addition during the draft. I know they added D'Onta Foreman and Nyheim Hines, but if they don't get a good, overall diagnosis, I guess, or update, I should say, on Nick Chubb's knee, then it would be very wise for them to invest in that running back room because I don't trust Jerome Ford and D'Onta Foreman. Neither player has really shown that they can be a capable lead back for, a full season. And if they don't expect to have Chubb back for a good chunk of the season, there should be more depth and overall more competition in that running back room. And if the Browns don't find a player early in the draft that they like at the running back position, maybe they wait to get a guy like Isaac Guerendo later in the draft. Now, before we get on to my other draft sleepers, today's show is sponsored by Game Time, baby. Spring is here, which means we got Guardians baseball back, opening day at the new ballpark, or the renovated ballpark, I should say. You've got playoff basketball for the Cavs, playoff hockey around the corner. The point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of fun sporting events coming up. And I don't want you to miss any of the action because of ticket prices. But with Game Time, you can get $20 off your first purchase when you download the Game Time app and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Now, I already put all that information in the comments and description of today's video to help you guys out, but it's the best place to find last-minute seats. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Moving on to my fourth draft sleeper, I'm going to go with the Virginia wide receiver Malik Washington. I've seen his name in the comments on a few videos, so I wanted to spend some time on the Virginia wideout. He's 5'8", 191 pounds. So from a size standpoint, he is in a very low percentile of successful NFL wide receivers. I don't think this is a player that's going to have a major role on an offense, but I do think he can provide some good spark plays for a number of teams. Now, don't look at 5'8", 191 and think, oh, he's a speed demon. He's fast. He's not slow, but he ran a 4.47 40-yard dash. So he's not one of the fastest guys on the field. But what he is a great route runner. And he may only have a few routes in his bag, but those routes, he runs them well. Now, he ran 88% of his snaps from the slot position, so we have a pretty good idea as to what he will translate to as an NFL wide receiver, which I think is on the high side, a quality wide receiver 3 from the slot. On the low end, probably someone who's out of the league in 3 years. But if you do hit the high end, I mean, you're talking about a guy last year who had 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. Can anyone tell me who Virginia's quarterback was last year? Because it wasn't him that was lighting up the stat sheet. It was Malik Washington. Now, the tough part is he's a slot wide receiver. And the Browns don't really need that. They traded for Jerry Jeudy, who last year, 60% of his snaps came from the slot. And David Bell is the backup slot wide receiver on this team. But if the Browns feel like Malik Washington is just too good of a hidden gem to pass on, and they'll find a way to get him on the field in some capacity, then sure, let's do it. I mean, Andrew Berry has been no stranger to making picks that there's not a lot of sense in it because there's already someone above them on the depth chart. Martin Emerson, DeJuan Jones. But ultimately, both those guys found a way on the field, and now it looks like they're not going to leave the field, or at least not for very long. But when you look at the Browns wide receiver room, like I've been saying, do you need a slot wide receiver? Not really. You just traded for one in Jerry Jeudy. But when you get to day 3 of the draft, beggars can't be choosers. And if the Browns want to get a wide receiver and they don't like any of your prototypical X or boundary outside wide receivers, maybe they go with a Malik Washington and who knows, could bring some competition to that spot. 5th and final draft sleeper I want to run through here. It is the Yale offensive tackle, Kiran Amegadjie. Kiran Amegadjie. I rehearsed it 10 times, and I still failed. But let's talk about him for a moment, because several NFL insiders believe he is this year's draft sleeper. Dane Brugler had an excellent, lengthy write-up on him, and if Dane Brugler's talking about him, I'm going to say there's a good enough smoke around him to believe there could be a fire. Now, he started at left tackle the last 2 seasons at Yale after starting off at guard, but there's been some murmurs and whispers that the Browns could be looking to improve their offensive line, and I wouldn't dismiss that. I would be a little bit surprised if they went early offensive tackle, which is why I think, I've got the phonetic right here, Kiran Amegadjie is a very solid option for day 3 of the draft if the Browns feel like, hey, this is like a DeJuan Jones type of player where we didn't really have a plan to draft him, but we didn't expect him to be available for us in round 5. And we're not going to pass up on someone we think could be a starting tackle in this league. Now, oddly enough, Joshua Miller, a longtime viewer here at the channel, he sent in a super thanks, so shout out to Joshua, saying, are we not putting enough emphasis on the offensive line in the draft? We are set at right tackle and center after this year, and that's it based on contract situations and cap hits for 2025. Maybe do a bit of an in-depth analysis on this in a near future show. Thanks for all you do for us Brownie fans. Josh, thank you for the super thanks. And let's talk about the offensive line really quickly, because you've got 5 starters that are not having their jobs taken away in the draft. I just don't see a world where that happens unless one of these 5 guys gets injured in training camp. But as for the concerns about long-term at this position group, I mean, 4 out of 5 of them are under contract for 2024 and 2025, at least. Jedrick Wills is the only guy that you might be replacing after this season. And maybe the Browns want to draft a tackle this year to do exactly that. Have him sit on the bench for a season, learn from the starters above him, get coached up, and then that way he's not a fish out of water when he starts in 2025. He's got a full season working in practice, going up against Myles Garrett a few times a week, and he feels battle-tested. Now, when it comes to the contract side of things here, there's, of course, just contracts expiring, and the Browns looking to move on from contracts because of the cap hits. Jedrick Wills, like we pointed out, will be a free agent after 2024, but Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, 3 guys who all have $19+ million cap hits in 2025. So if the Browns need to shed some dollars and there's cap casualties as a result, maybe it's the move on from Jack Conklin move where DeJuan Jones steps in at right tackle, or it's move on from Bitonio or Teller because you don't feel like they've got enough juice left in the tank to warrant that big of a cap hit, and you draft someone this year to take over for them next year. If you were Andrew Berry, would you prioritize offensive line in the draft? I don't think it's one of my biggest priorities. I know the Browns and NFL teams are always thinking a couple steps down the road, and hey, if you're picking in day 3 of the draft, it's already a little bit of a crapshoot, so I'm not going to be too upset based on the positions they go in round or day 3, because chances are, whatever position you wanted them to draft, that guy wasn't going to be a huge impactful player. That's just what history says for round 3 or day 3 players, But I think they should be going after linebacker and running backs in rounds 2 and 3 of the draft, because those are positions that I think have big impacts in 2024. And this is a all-in season for 2024. So why not go get someone that can actually do something on the field for you compared to someone that's going to sit on the bench when you're not in a spot where you can really afford that, given how invested you are in 2024. To wrap up the show, let's pick a card. We got producer Tex coming in with me on this Sunday afternoon. Big Tex, which card do you want to go with?
Let me go with the 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds. I like it. I'm going to go with the Queen of Spades. No good reason, just feeling it. 5 of diamonds. 5 of diamonds. All right, that will do it for us. We'll let you guys get back to the rest of your Sunday evening, and I will see you all tomorrow.